Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be doing so much crazy crap that you're probably going to have to go back and rewatch this video because you're going to get lost in the middle of it. And that's cool because this process is insane. But it has come to my attention that a lot of you, despite taking classes in data science and web, have never actually done the whole process of putting a database somewhere on the internet and then talking to it. Let me put up a poll and see how many people have actually done that. Have you made a database on the public internet and talked to it somewhere else? Talk to it to and fro, so sending stuff to it, getting stuff back. Let's see if we've done this here. I was under the impression that's something we did in web, but apparently it's not. Okay, it's not something we did. Every developer needs to know how to do this. Every developer needs to have something in their pocket for how to do this quickly, how to set it up on a server. So you spin up an EC2 instance like this at your work, put together one of these backends real quick, and use that as your thing for testing. Because obviously you need somewhere to send all those TCP and UDP requests, sure, but you also need somewhere to store your files. And what we did in the last homework was we made our own database out of a text file, where we just had everything on its own row, and then we separated columns with commas. So that's a very simplistic database. And you can do that, you can build your own, but generally speaking, once you get past any kind of low level of complexity, you're going to want to use one of the existing databases out there. And my favorite is mySQL, despite the fact that it is extremely unsexy and very old. I think it's something like 25 years old. But mySQL works, and I have stuff that I've written 10 years ago that depends on MySQL databases that still works, unmodified. I mean, you probably ought to update MySQL, but barely ever updates anyway, so that's not a big deal. There's really nothing to it. It's super simple. I like to use it with phpMyAdmin and PHP scripts, which we'll go over here too. The performance of this, honestly, garbage. Different quality of life features, garbage. The maintenance panel, garbage. But again, it's 25 years old. It still works, and I haven't run into a database yet that I prefer. So I'm going to walk you guys through it, even though many people laugh at me when I say that this is what I use for my database tech, but whatever. You guys can spin up whatever modern crap you want to do out there in the real world. I'm going to keep chugging along with MySQL until it's old and dead. Other options that are pretty good that are in common usage today are PostgreSQL. PostgreSQL is very commonly used. Different flavors of SQL besides those two as well. I'm not going to name them all because there's really dozens out there. Those two, MySQL and PostgreSQL, probably make up something like 60–70% of the market share. Just guessing. At some point, MySQL was probably that much on its own, but it keeps losing market share as time goes on. And then there are fancier database techs like Mongo and stuff. Those are also pretty cool, but again, don't prefer those. Just don't need that kind of fanciness. I just want to save some bytes and load some bytes. Nothing fancy for me, thank you. All right, so let's begin by, hopefully everybody has gotten to their workspace by now. If not, get started. Now, if you haven't opened it recently, so once you let it idle for like a day or so, the next time you open it will take a very long time because it actually has to boot up, so it can take like up to 90 seconds. The other cool thing, though, is that while it is not running, so while you've closed it and you're not working in it, you if you try to connect to the website that you're hosting, you'll still connect to it. So basically it keeps running in the background for some time after you have closed it. But it doesn't run forever, so expect, I think, that your site will go down if you're inactive on the workspace for a while. I believe that's how it works. I'm not sure which subscription that they've purchased. There's a subscription you can purchase where it does stay up basically permanently, but I'm not sure. And I also think we're being billed hourly too, so don't leave it open overnight. But, that's not your problem. It's not like you're paying for it. All right, so first thing is we are going to, you can see what I've been searching. The first thing we're going to do is get MySQL installed, then we're going to get PHP installed, and then we're going to get a phpMyAdmin installed. And we're doing all of this so that we can have a database on this server where we can store things, and we can talk to that database from all our different clients, and from our server we can have persistence across even when there's no application running. We can do a lot of other cool fancy database operations like sorting and whatever. And this is basically an essential part of any program that uses the internet, unless you're willing to write your own like we did in some of the previous homeworks. Alright, let me check my notes here. What's first? Every time I do this, I end up going through a lot of curse words and spending a lot of time on this. I never remember how to do this. And every time I look it up, it gets harder and harder to find as all this tech gets older and older. Alright, first thing we're going to do is get PHP for Iis and mySQL installed. And the best way to do that is to go to the web platform installer. So we're going to find the web platform installer. That's going to be from the official Microsoft website. So make sure you type web platform installer in the search and find the web platform installer from the official Microsoft Iis website. And you're going to go ahead and install this extension. So I've already done this, but I'm going to click the button here. You'll see it downloads web platform install.msi. Just click on that guy and hit run. I'm going to hit cancel because I already have it. And just get that installed. So I'm going to give everybody a minute to get there. It doesn't do anything when you're successful, so it'll just close the installer and nothing happens. So again, one more time, we're going to go to Web Platform Installer. I searched that on Google. I found the first link for me, but might not be the first link for you. It's the link for Microsoft.com, Web Platform Installer, and the official Microsoft Iis website. This is something that Microsoft provides to keep a bunch of different tools, all kinds of different databases and other things that people use up to date and make them easier to install. Because before the web platform installer, or some people still prefer to do it this way, you either had to run command lines or a batch job or something to install all these different components. And some applications have maybe dozens of different web things that they depend on. You don't want to have to go and get them all individually from all the different places they are on the internet. So this keeps them all in one place. It also lets you know that you're getting a trusted download, which is nice. So once you've finished this, it's going to appear in your Start menu under M, Microsoft Web Platform Installer. We're going to run that, let it make changes to our computer. You can already see that this is developer technology based on how terrible this user interface is. I'm going to wait for everybody to get to this screen here. And if you're having problems, let me know in either chat. Again, every time I follow these directions, something goes wrong for me. And, that's fine. Hopefully somebody else can help you out. Hopefully I can help you out, but I expect there will be trouble. Okay, so it's under M for Microsoft Web Platform Installer. Alright, first thing we're going to look up is mySQL, so type that in the search bar and hit enter. We are going to get the latest and greatest. MySQL is the dolphin here, the dolphin with the My in blue and the SQL in orange. That has been their logo for nigh on 20 years as well. Again, really showing their age. We're going to get the latest and greatest, which is from 2015. Top of the line tech, right? So MySQL Windows 5.5 is the latest that they have on the web platform installer. That's going to be fine for us. So you can just hit add here, and we're not going to install it just yet. We're going to grab the PHP as well. So you can hit add here and wait, or you can hit add and go ahead and install it and get PHP separately. The choice is yours. So I searched for MySQL in the search bar and I hit enter, and then I added MySQL Windows 5.5 to my list of things to install here. The next thing is going to be PHP on Iis. So I'm going to search for PHP, so just PHP, 3 letters again, PHP. And there are a few options. I want one that's a little bit further down. I want the latest version of PHP for Iis Express, PHP for Iis. So the latest is 7.4.1. It actually doesn't matter here. You can go further back, but we're going to do 7.4.1, which came out in 2019. So PHP is still a very popular and commonly used language, despite it being almost universally despised by everybody who works with it. It is still one of the most popular languages for back-end. Now, Java actually has an alternative to us using PHP. It's called JDPC or something. I don't know. It's got a way to communicate with a SQL server directly inside Java, but I don't particularly like it. I find the syntax irritating, and it's not quite as secure. It's not a big deal, but the nicest thing about PHP is that all of the scripts get to hang out on the server and nothing goes on the client's machine, which I find to be a very nice way to handle your security. You just stop the client from being able to read the scripts. In a normal instance, they're only able to execute them. If they want to see what they're doing, they have to go through quite a bit more effort than they do if it's a Java application. They can just see everything. So, PHP 7.4.1 for Iis Express, and hit add. And then you are going to install these two things. Generally, I do this once, and then I go back and I do it again, because the first time I install everything, it throws some kind of error, and the second time it works. I don't know if you're going to have the same experience, but if it throws you any kind of error after you're done with the install process, just do it again. So get the MySQL and the PHP one more time. Alright, I'm going to do a poll to see if everybody's up to this point. Still looking at some no's. So let me go back to my web platform installer. If you got an error, just feel free to, like I said, do it again. It very much likes to error out the first time you do it, especially the PHP install. So the PHP install, when you add it, you'll notice it adds two things. It adds the PHP and then one of its dependencies. So sometimes the first time you run it, it installs them in the wrong order, and then it does the dependency second, and then the first thing fails. The second time you run it, the dependency is already installed, so it succeeds. Especially if that happens with the PHP, you just run it twice. Alright, while it's going, you don't necessarily have to wait for it to finish. We're going to go find our next piece of useful software, and that's going to be another ancient piece of tech called phpMyAdmin, which is one of the best ways, in my opinion, to manage your MySQL database. If you can't run it the second time, then it probably succeeded. I guess we'll find out soon if it did or didn't. myPHPAdmin is a way to maintain your SQL databases, and it runs over the HTTP connection in your browser, which is very nice. So it allows you to maintain your SQL database without having to sign into the machine like we've done here. So we are obviously signed into the workspace. Okay, I could access my database here, but that's kind of inconvenient to have to tunnel in every time, whereas phpMyAdmin lets you, I don't know what I called it before, phpMyAdmin lets you sign in via a simple URL and play with it as long as you have the password and everything. Yeah, that's normally what I get when I try to install the PHP thing the first time. I get that one of the products failed to install. But, just run it again. And hopefully it works. Alright, so we're going to look up phpMyAdmin. And that'll take you to phpMyAdmin.net. phpMyAdmin.net. So by the way, at this point, when you did the install, it asked you for a password. Hopefully you've remembered that. That's not a throwaway. Okay, so if you didn't remember it, sorry I didn't warn you before. You're in a really crap place if you didn't remember it. Make sure you remember the password to your MySQL install that it asked you for when you installed it. Which one is the extension, the Iis one? Well, just failing digital signature verification doesn't necessarily mean it didn't work. So that should be fine. That should be fine. So it's failed, but also installed. Very traditional in the land of Microsoft Web Services. Almost like a rite of passage. Yes, I believe I got that message as well, but it still worked in the end. So I think that's good enough. As long as it seems to have succeeded. We'll see. You will know pretty soon if it didn't work. So you can always go back. You don't have to do these steps in order. So if it didn't work out, you can always go back. It also might help to restart if it doesn't work after a bit. Okay, so phpMyAdmin was the next thing that I searched for again, and I'm going to go to phpMyAdmin.net. That brings you to this page here, which again you can tell is quite old, just like everything else that we're doing today. But again, it still works and still being updated, I want to note. All right, they're getting a new version very regularly, basically quarterly, for copyright's 2003, and I know it's older than that, so something like 20 years with regular quarterly updates. You don't see that a lot in the software world. It supports some other databases too, like Maria, but the best part of phpMyAdmin is administering your MySQL database easily and through your browser. Alright, so we're going to hit download there. It's going to download a zip file. I'm going to try to show that. Look at this guy in here. I already have a bunch of them, so that's what it looks like. phpMyAdmin 5.0.4-all languages is what you're going to end up with. You can go ahead and extract it here. So just go ahead and right-click on it and go to Extract All and extract it right into the directory here. So once you've got the file downloaded, right-click on it, go to Extract All, and you can just go ahead and extract it into Downloads. If you've done it correctly, you can click into the folder and see it's got another identically named folder inside of it. That's just the way they do things. And then it's got this folder with all of the different actual files that it needs. So you should see stuff like doc, examples, JS, things like Ajax. Okay. Oh no, did I hit the back button? Success. If you're using the web-based version of Amazon Workspaces, make sure not to hit the back button on your mouse. Alright, so we are actually going to want this folder that's nested inside here. Okay, so this phpMyAdmin 5.0.4 languages, we're going to want this guy, and we are going to go into our www-root folder. I made a shortcut for it. If you don't have a shortcut for it, remember, you've got to go to your File Explorer, you've got to type C semicolon slash, because it's hidden up here, because you're not supposed to put stuff in your C drive on Amazon Workspaces, because this stuff can get deleted at any time when the workstation is rebuilt. That's not a problem for us since we only have a week anyway, and we're just playing with it. But that's the reason why it's hidden. They don't want to encourage you to put stuff in this place where stuff gets deleted all the time. So again, if you don't have C drive visible, you got to go to File Explorer, click manually in the search bar, and type C colon, and then a backslash there, and that'll take you to C drive. Then you want to go to inetpub and find your www-root. That's going to be where you put that index file yesterday. I have some other things in there as well. You can disregard those for now. And I like to go ahead and make a shortcut of this. So once you've found www-root, right-click on it, go to Create Shortcut. It'll ask you if you want to put it on the desktop. Say yes, and there you go. You've got your shortcut to www-root, so you don't have to do this every time. Alright, once you are inside www-root, go ahead and get that phpMyAdmin folder that you downloaded and drag it on in there. I'm not going to do that because I already did. So just go ahead and drag it on in there, and you will have this phpMyAdmin 5.0.4 all languages folder in there. Now what I like to do at this point is rename it, so I recommend you do this. Go ahead and hit F2 or right click on it and go to rename and get rid of all that stuff at the end. Just name it phpMyAdmin. This might just be me being superstitious, but I like to do that for my organization. So go ahead and rename it to phpMyAdmin. instead of phpMyAdmin-5.0.4-all languages. Alright, I'm going to see if everybody else is up to this point. It takes a little while to copy over from D to C. And again, if you're having any problems, let me know. Especially with a screenshot, I'll see what I can do. So far, all the screenshots I've seen from people are stuff that I got and it worked anyway, so don't worry about it. Different warnings during the install process that ultimately don't mean anything. Alright, so we all got phpMyAdmin in www root. Okay, so if you've installed everything successfully and you have placed it inside of www root successfully, so the other day I had you go to index, right? So you went to localhost/index.html and it showed you you had your name on there. Today we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go HTTP, our IP address, and instead of index.html we're going to go to phpMyAdmin as the thing after the slash there. So phpMyAdmin after the slash. And if everything happened correctly, you'll see the beautiful phpMyAdmin ship, not the dolphin, you get the ship here. And you'll see a page where it asks you to sign in. And this is going to be the password that you set for the SQL database earlier. So if you don't remember it, actually don't remember what to do, you're out of luck. I'll have to help you out later because I'm going to have to look that up. But if you do remember it, then you can sign in here. Your username is almost certainly going to be root, and your password is going to be what you set when you installed that MySQL database from the web installer earlier. So when you installed it from here, it asks you for a password. You're going to enter that here now, and then you're going to hit go in order to get in there. Let me see a screenshot instead. The errors don't mean much to me by words. Alright, let's see. There's a 403 forbidden. If everybody gets a forbidden, let's see, everybody gets a forbidden. Alright, in that case we need to tweak an IIS setting as far as I know. Let's see. Hopefully I remember which IIS setting to tweak, so we're just going to tweak a bunch and hope that we get there. So, to get to Iis Manager, you're going to go to your Start menu, and you're going to go to Iis. So, Start, type Iis, and that'll take you to the Iis Manager. Okay, now once you're at the Iis Manager, actually back out of this for a second, we're not going to need that yet. First, go to the Server Manager, which is one of the tiles right on your front screen there. So first go to Server Manager. Yes, it's funny you all have different errors. Some of you probably didn't copy the right folder. You copied the outer phpMyAdmin folder instead of the inner one. But you'll get the other error once you do that successfully. So make sure you have that inner one copied so that like when I click in this folder I can see all of the files and stuff in there. And also make sure it's named phpMyAdmin as I have it there. And yes, that's all you need to worry about for now. Alright, go to the Server Manager. We're going to get rid of Iis Manager for now. Go to the Server Manager, which is one of the tiles on your Start menu, or you can obviously type Server Manager and get there that way. And we are going to go to... Well, we're going to wait a minute for it to remember that I have Iis on here, because this does move slowly. Yep, there we go. See, Iis popped up. It took a bit, though, so give it a moment. You won't see Iis right away. It'll take a while to come up, but then it'll come up in these tiles here. And you're going to click that tile, and it will take you to this screen. So again, you're at Server Manager, you're waiting for the Iis tile to appear, and then you're clicking on the tile. Don't click on these words here, click on the tile itself. Sometimes you need to spam click it. Server moves slow. And that will bring you here to the Iis Server Management screen. Once you've gotten to this point, you renamed it and it solved your error. So are you able to get to the sailboat then? Is anybody at the sailboat? Oops. Is anyone at the login screen for phpMyAdmin, or they've already signed in? Let me see. Alright, so some people aren't, so it's possible that it's a server setting. It's also possible that you installed your PHP or MySQL incorrectly. So go back and make sure that you have, if you open the Microsoft Web Platform installer and you search for MySQL, you should see MySQL Windows 5.5 marked as installed now. And if you search for PHP, you should see PHP 7.4.1 marked as installed now. So both of those should be marked as installed. Make sure it's named phpMyAdmin with the capitalization intact, and that it is the innermost folder named that with all of the files in there directly under that directory. Okay. The other solution that I believe some folks will need, so back to Server Manager here, you're going to right-click on the top server, and you're going to go to Add Roles and Features. We're going to next through for a bit. We're just going to pick the only one that we have, so continue to next through. Then in the drop-downs, once you get here, so again, I right-clicked on this, I went to Add Roles and Features, I nexted my way through everything by default, and now I got to this screen here, so I'm expanding the drop-down for Web Server, Iis. I have quite a few things installed. I was just hammering at them while I tried to remember which ones I needed. I am pretty certain that you need .NET Extensibility 4.6 and everything that comes with it. But of course you can feel free to just check all the boxes that I have. I wouldn't check all the boxes that there are, period, though, because that will take quite a long time to install. So just check .NET Extensibility 4.6. It'll tell you that you need some additional things in order to do that. Just go ahead and say yes to that as well. And then you might also need, if you don't have the 4 common HTTP features installed, although those should have all been defaults when you installed Iis in the first place. So if you don't have the first 4 common HTTP features installed, that could be the problem as well. So one more time, in the Server Manager, right-clicked on the top one, went to Add Roles and Features, hit Next on my way through here, and then when I got to Server Roles, I found Web Server Iis, and I made sure I had the top 4 common HTTP features, and then under Application Development, I had .NET Extensibility, and optionally this other stuff down here too, which you might need. So if it continues not to work, try to grab this stuff too. And let's see if that fixes anybody's error. So this can take about usually less than 5 minutes to install this stuff. Unless you check too many of these, then it can take up to 20, 30. Although, I don't know. These machines are pretty fast. These Amazon machines, they're not, I guess, as slow as the crap server I'm used to. That's all you're going to need. You're not going to need to check anything else in features, so once you've checked those boxes, you'll just next your way through until you get to the installation process. Default, everything is okay from that point. So .NET Extensibility under Web Server Iis, Application Development, and also the top 4 options under Common HTTP Features. I'm going to do the poll again for able to see the login screen for phpMyAdmin. So again, you're going to go back to your browser and make sure you refresh the page and see if you can still see it. And obviously, you'd also answer yes if you were able to log in successfully. Yep, it can take a minute to install. In the meantime, I'm going to prepare the scripts I'm going to send you guys. Now, I was scratching my head for a way to quickly and easily send you scripts from AWS workspaces to your AWS workspaces, and I couldn't come up with anything. So I'm going to do the dumbest solution that I could think of, which is just share the file with you on ZippyShare. Good old-fashioned ZippyShare. So today is a real legacy day. We're doing all legacy stuff. Not your AWS password. It's the password that you specified when you set up SQL moments ago. So when you set up SQL through the Microsoft Web Platform installer, it asked you for a password. Where'd my web platform installer? You'll know that the web platform installer was successful if when you search for MySQL, it marks it as installed, and when you search for PHP, it marks it as installed. So if you can show me a screenshot of it not marking it as installed for you, that might help me to diagnose what the problem is. So the 7.4.1 PHP for Iis and the MySQL should be marked as installed. The username is always going to be root, so the username is going to be root. User is root, and password is whatever you set up in MySQL. Eventually this will time me out and I'll get logged out. So you've got everything if that's what you see. You don't need anything else as far as PHP goes. Likewise for SQL. Issue at that point could be naming with this directory. It also could be that you're in the wrong place. Maybe you're not in wwroot. Looks like MySQL is installed for that person too, so that's also probably not your problem. I guess it probably has to do then with where phpMyAdmin is at. The Windows cache extension, which one is that? Where'd you grab the Windows cache extension? Is it this one? Hey, why not? You can always get the Windows cache extension. That's not gonna hurt. But I'm in it, and I don't have the Windows cache extension, and we all have identical computers, so not necessarily something you need, but why not? Windows cache extension. Oh, you want to grab the Windows cache extension for the right version, I guess. So we have PHP 7.2, I believe, so you're probably going to want that one. Actually, I think we have PHP 7.4. Is there a cache extension for 7.4? Yes, there is, so grab that one. If you're going to grab that one. I don't have it, see, and I'm running perfectly fine. But, hey, it doesn't matter. Anybody able to get signed in? Is anyone able to successfully sign in? Successfully signed in as root. Now we're just going to do everything as root because we don't have time to waste doing user management and everything. And that's not actually terrible practice in phpMyAdmin. You still shouldn't do it, but it's actually not that bad. And the reason it's not that bad is because it's fairly difficult to leak the root password unless you make a pretty serious mistake. I'll show you where the root password lives here pretty soon, and you'll see that you have to make a pretty serious mistake if you're using PHP to leak the root password. Windows cache extension for PHP 7.4. Can't hurt if you want to give it a shot. Let's see what other error we got. PHP 500 internal service. Internal server. wwroot. So that probably, I don't know why you have that, but you're probably going to want to go back to Server Manager and let's wait for Iis to come up. Wait for Iis, and then we're going to go back to the, just get it, let me in, let me in. Click it up, okay, click it over there then. Alright, we're going to go back to Iis, we're going to go back to Add Roles and Features, click through, and we're going to make sure that we have under Web Server Application Development, make sure you have ASP.NET 4.6 installed. If you have the error that somebody showed there, the 500.21 error, you're going to have to probably grab that. I don't know why you need it, but I guess you do. Failed to set session cookie is possibly you have navigated to it in the search bar. You typed HTTPS instead of HTTP, so you can try to make sure that you have, try again, retype it as HTTP up here. By default, it's configured not to use HTTPS, so unless you modify the config file, it shouldn't be a problem. And again, back to the people like Gothic who had that 502 error, you probably have to get back to the server roles and install ASP.NET here. So that's under Web Server Iis, Application Development, sorry, Web Server Iis, Web Server Application Development, and then make sure ASP.NET 4.6 is checked. What is the name of the cache extension you guys got that helped you out? Is it Windows Cache Extension 2.0 x64 for PHP 7.4? If that helps you out, that's fine. It's almost like it's magic, right? Because different things work for different people, despite all of us having practically fresh installs and different computers. Really fascinating stuff. Okay, so some folks needed that cache extension. Alright. Yeah, I see that one. I don't have it. Mine still works fine. The only things I have are PHP 7.4.1 and PHP 7.1.4.1, the x86 version. And yeah, those are the only two things I have installed. Iis node for Iis, but that's obvious. Alright. Go figure is what it is. So if you're getting that error, grab the Windows Cache Extension 2.0. Okay, I am going to zippy share my files. This is probably going to be the longest part of the process today. The old PHP scripts.zip. Hopefully everything I need is in here. Yep. Okay. So, there's no way for me to give this to you without you typing it, as far as I know. So you're just going to have to type it. I'm going to try to make it as large as possible. Maybe I can copy paste it to Discord. No. So I'm just going to try to make it as large as possible to make it easier for you to type. And yes, I realize this is a very stupid way to move files over, but I really can't think of anything cleverer. If someone can think of something cleverer, let me know. So that is the URL that you're going to want to navigate to pick up the PHP scripts that you're going to need. Note the WW73. ZippyShare has many instances on the WW, so you got to make sure you're on the right one. WW73. If you don't have an ad blocker, finding the right button on ZippyShare is hard, so I recommend getting uBlock Origin real quick, even if you're on the VMs, so you can pick it up in like 5 seconds. It takes about this long. Watch, I'll get it. uBlock Origin. Click that top button, and then add extension, and I'd be done by now. Then I wouldn't have to hunt down the right button on ZippyShare. While everybody is trying to type that into their URL bar, I'm going to do another poll. See if everybody's able to get in as root. Alright, well, it looks like at least the majority. And we're still working on our ZippyShare downloads. Alright, now let's get into using phpMyAdmin. So this is a console for settings and making new databases and managing new databases, and you can export them to CSV. Anything that you could want to do with your SQL database, you can do through your browser in phpMyAdmin. What you can also do is check out in your home machine how you can use phpMyAdmin as well. So go ahead and see what the IP of the remote server is. So for me it's that, and you can go to the remote server's IP address and type /phpMyAdmin there, this on your home machine, and see that you can sign into it from your home computer without actually having to sign into the VM. So very convenient to be able to manage your SQL databases from home. We're not going to do that right now, but you could. Hopefully everybody's making good progress typing in that ZippyShare URL. Alright, the next thing that we're going to do is make our database. I called it color grid because that's what I had planned to use it on. You can call it whatever you want, just remember what you call it. So on the left hand side you're going to see a bunch of stuff. You can leave it as is, but you're going to click on the what looks like a cylinder with a plus sign and the word new, and it's going to go loading, loading, loading. And we're going to leave all of these settings default. We're going to, yeah, ZippyShare is not a great place to visit without AdBlock again. So if you don't have AdBlock, I mean, it's just a VM, so it's not your problem if it gets malwared, but it's still, it's hard to find the download button, let alone use it. Whereas with AdBlock, ZippyShare is the nicest website of all. So once you're at this new, it's going to ask you for some settings about the database. You can just not check any of these boxes. Make sure this drop-down is on UTF General CI. That's the encoding we're going to use for everything. That's just basic UTF. And name this. Again, I named mine Color Grid, so if you want to follow all the same naming as me, you can name yours Color Grid as well. Again, remember, make sure it's WW73. That's the one people usually mess up the most. So remember that it's WW73 and not WWW. Oh, and if any of you have typed it, you can always feel free to, well, I guess if you posted it in Discord, you'd have to retype it into web services anyway, unless you can copy and paste from it. If you're using the desktop version instead of the web version, you should be able to copy and paste text. It makes it slightly easier. Okay, so once you have created your database, it will appear on the side here. So you'll see it as one of your databases on the side. You want to expand the box for it, so I've expanded Color Grid here. And once that box is expanded, we're going to make a new table within that database. So the table is what you're actually basically saving all of your stuff into. So what we made in the last homework, where we had the username, the password, the last login time, that's basically a table. This URL is a URL you enter just in your browser here, so that would be right at the top there. You would enter it. So I'm going to go and enter it myself. http://www.730.8xzmd.gw/file.html, enter, and if I don't have, let's see, did make a typo. I got an extra slash in there. If I have ad block, see, I don't see anything except this beautiful, very suspicious looking download now button. That is actually the button. And I click that and I get phpscripts.zip downloaded to my directory. Okay, back to our database. So I have color grid expanded. That's the new database I made. So again, I went to new here. I left all this stuff the way it is, unchecked. I made sure this was UTF General CI. I named it color grid and I hit create. It came up on the side here. Now I'm going to go to new in order to create a new table. So under color grid, you have this new option. I'm going to go to that and create the table. When you expand it, you should still see new, even though it's blank. Couldn't even click the download button with that uBlock. Okay, sorry, it's been a long time since I've used Zippy Share, and I've never used it without AdBlock. Let's see, if you don't have a drop-down, what can you do? You ought to. You know, did anybody else not have a drop-down and unable to make one for new? You can also just try to refresh the page. That can work sometimes. Just try to refresh the page. No drop-downs, but it defaults to making a new table. Well, that's good enough. If you click on it and it goes straight to new table, is that what it does by default? No. Okay, well, if you click on it, there's a new table option here as well somewhere. I don't remember where, and I can't make my window larger without maximizing it. Okay, I'm just going to have to move on because I want to get the table set up today. So, in the table creation area, once you've gotten to it, we're going to make the following values. So we're going to make user ID, password, last login, and then table ID. Okay, so user ID, password, last login, and then table ID. And I made them all lowercase, which is more convenient for me. Now you've got a lot of different kinds of variable types that you can store in your database, in your SQL database. And people who are PHP and SQL pros take advantage of all of these, but I am no PHP or SQL pro, so I store everything as text. That's the easiest way for me to manage it in Java, because I just send text there and get text back, and then I don't have to deal with the fact that the variable types are all weird. I named this login info. So let me type these actually, because they're very small. So I named this table login info, 4 columns, user ID, password, last login, and table ID. I made all of those type text. I'm going to get rid of the Zippy Share link here, so if you still need it, just go back in the live stream. Okay, I made all of these text, and then I'm going to change all of their collation to UTF General CI. Make sure you go to UTF 8. We're going to be doing 8 for all of these. So find UTF 8 General CI. It's unfortunately near the bottom, despite being the most common encoding, because they're alphabetical or something. And all 3 of those fields are going to be UTF General CI. Now I have left table ID as an integer. This is going to be how the table increments. So this is basically the row number. If you don't have a row number, then your database is basically just a squished together bunch of stuff with commas between them. It also becomes difficult to delete rows because it's difficult to figure out which row you want to get rid of. Anyway, it's a lot of stuff you don't care about. Just make sure that you have a table ID and it's called int, and then you're also going to go and in this drop down set it to primary. That makes it the primary key for this table. It's going to ask you for some other stuff, and you're just going to say, okay, I think, right? Yeah, primary. We're also going to check this box, AI. That means auto-incrementing. That means anytime something gets added to the table, it's going to increment it automatically. I hope I got that right. Maybe I went to have it on index, but we're going to see soon. Primary. The other thing we want to do is check null on all of our 3 text fields, that allows them to be blank. If you don't do that, it just makes it more difficult when you accidentally mistype one of the names later and it doesn't get sent correctly. So overall, I'm going to leave it on this screen for a bit so you can see it in the video. If you ever have to look at it again, it's going to be all of them are text, they're all UTF-8 general, they're all nullable. The last one is an integer, it's a primary, and it's auto increment on. Okay, and then you would hit save at this point. I already have this table, so I don't have to hit save. I'm going to leave and go to my already done login table, my login info. Let me make sure that that was exactly the same structure, actually. I'm going to go back to my structure here. So it's an int, and it's the primary because it's got the little key icon. So yes, everything was the same as I just described it for you there. Okay, that's going to bring us up to the part where we get to use Java. So make sure that you have those PHP scripts on your system here. We're going to use those next time. I'm going to post the homework about this tonight, but you're probably not going to really be able to get into it until Monday then when we finish the rest of this tutorial. But I'm sure you guys have no intention of working over the weekend anyway, so that's fine. Alright, so on Monday we will see how to communicate with this database through Java. In the meantime, if you're having any problems, you can just put it on your desktop for now with that folder. We'll go over where to put it and everything next time. So in the meantime, if you're having any issues, let me know. Getting to this point, so you should be signed in to phpMyAdmin. You should have your table made. The PHP scripts you got from ZippyShare, you can just leave them on the desktop for now, like I've got all of these here. And we are going to use those next time. Okay, that's it for today. Don't forget to shut off your machine so that we don't incur a tremendous amount of Amazon fees. Okay. See you guys.